Welcome to today's match, everybody! In the blue corner we have Commander Frog! And in the red corner, Spider-Man 2! Begin! Cheap shot. What's poppin', gamers? I recently entered a fighting games tournament. There was a slight miscommunication. Come on! That fight was clearly rigged. They must have known I have a weakness to getting my head punched off. If they're gonna rig the competition, then so can I. So I'm gonna have to study my opponents to find which games are the strongest before I can avoid them. This tournament's only for the best of the best though. So I'm gonna be looking at the main characters of games that won or were nominated for the 2023 Game Awards and ranking them on a tier list in order to find which game of the year would win in a fight. Also, there's gonna be some spoilers for games mentioned. If you don't want that, just skip the section about them. There'll be 1 dash for minor gameplay spoilers and 2 dashes for major story spoilers. Starting off the list, we have Link from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, winner of Best Action Game and my personal game of the year. Now, what games did I play this year? Steep competition. Link's a good baseline for strength. He doesn't have any too insane feats, but he's still stronger than any real human. I've never seen a real rock climber scale a perfectly vertical flat wall. On top of that, we also know he's the strongest knight in Hyrule, having mastery of pretty much every type of sword, axe, hammer, and bow. His real strength though comes from the Pura Pad, which gives him pretty much full control over objects, being able to fuse them together to create powerful weapons, or reverse time on objects, or most powerfully, combine up to 21 objects, including everything from wooden planks to laser beams. With this, people have been able to build some insane stuff, including tanks, attack helicopters, mech suits, or even just a big rock to drop on enemies. While this is insanely powerful, we have characters later on who can level city blocks with ease. And if they can do that, they can take a mech suit. Which is why I feel comfortable putting Link right in the middle at B. Also a good time to mention that I'm only going to be looking at this version of each character. Every Link is a different guy who just so happens to have the same name and face, and will be treated as such. I'm not just looking at this game for their power level though. For people like Mario who are the same guy in pretty much every piece of media, it's fair game to rank them using other games. Speaking of Mario, he's our next competitor as the winner of Best Family Game of the Year. Mario, the yin to Link's yang, the two brothers of Nintendo born of Shigeru Miyamoto in the same era. It's honestly inspiring to see how even after 30 years, they're still topping the video game industry, both being nominated for Game of the Year at the same time. So let's make them fight. Mario has a bunch of power-ups to help him, but he can only use 2 at a time and he has to switch between them. And assuming he brings the power-up from Wonder, he doesn't really have anything that blows away the competition. Turning into an elephant's not gonna do much against a guy who fights Titans for fun. Mario is pretty much the opposite of Link, with his main strength not coming from a power, and instead coming from his pure physical ability, with his raw agility and maneuverability being unmatched. Even just taking his basic jump into Photoshop and doing some minor adjustments, we can see that Mario can jump up to 2.5 of him. Being 5'1", this means he's jumping 12.75 feet into the air. This is already taller than the world record high jump of 8 feet, but when considering that he weighs 110 pounds and is doing this jump with basically no build-up, this means that to jump this high requires 3,095 newtons of force, or about 1,000 newtons more than the force required to crush a human skull. So Mario is already just jumping around turning people into puddles, but what we also have to consider is his durability. In Mario Galaxy we see him get inches away from a black hole, which implies insane durability, but I'm probably about to make what's the most controversial ruling of this list and say that durability is dog shit. Because no matter how strong the attack is, he can only take 2 of them before he dies. 4 max is a power-up. Whether it's a shot from a massive cannon to an itty-bitty Goomba, 4 hits and he's dead. With this major crack in his durability, I can't give him any higher than C tier. And before you bring it up, I'm not counting the Mario and Luigi games. Sure, in them he can parry any attack if he has the right timing and dish out some strong attacks of his own, but that's only with Mario and Luigi. And again, before you say he should have half the strength on his own, everyone knows that you get infinitely stronger when you're with your bro. Me and my brother are doing shit like this all the time. If I was on my own though, I'd be f***ed. Next we have a nominee for Best Debut Indie Game and winner for Most Controversial Loss, Peppino from Pizza Tower. He's pretty similar to Mario, short guy, jump high, but I'm gonna give him the edge, just because he has that loony look in his eyes. I feel like you put him and Mario in a room together, Mario's gonna get ready for a handshake, and by then Peppino's already gonna be munching his femur. You hear that sound? I mean, it's time for honorable mention, a game that just didn't quite make the cut. I just don't want to talk about it anyway. And it's the Suika Game. While it launched in 2021, it saw a huge boost in popularity in 2023 when Japanese streamers started playing it, and an even bigger boost in popularity when Ludwig brought it to the English streaming world. In terms of feats, it can have further food stacked on top of it, I guess. Listen, this is really just here to be the floor. If I gave another character weakest, they'd feel bad. So let's just give it to the watermelon and move on. Up next we got Spider-Man 2 with the Spider-Man 2. Nominee of 7 awards and a winner of a clean 0. For the sake of argument, I'm going to be ranking the two of them as 1. Because they're implied to have similar strength, and the difference in their abilities are so minor, even if I ranked them separately, they'd be right next to each other anyways. In raw lifting capacity, we can see Peter lift up this massive crane. It's estimated to be about 725 feet tall, and estimated to weigh 665,625 pounds. By Colin, on YouTube. Thanks for doing the math so I don't have to. We can also see him bring moving cars and trucks to a standstill on the regular. Now there's their agility and ability to sync while on the spot, with him being able to solve a Rubik's Cube in 3.03 seconds, which is about 0.10 seconds faster than the world record, and only 2 seconds slower than my record. These two are also masters of combat, being able to pull off some insane combos. And you gotta keep in mind, they always hold back when they fight to avoid killing their enemies. Even though I'm pretty sure this wouldn't knock you in the air, and would instead just knock your head off. Not sure why you want to do that though, that seems like kind of lame and stupid and something only these cheap stupid losers would do, would pull off a cheap shot because they suck. Then there's the matter of durability. Peter gets jumped by all the Sinister Six at the end of Spider-Man 1, and even just Electro here is able to easily smash through a concrete smokestack, and he gets away with only 14 broken bones. But even with these 14 broken bones, he gets up, shows no sign of injury, and goes on to beat all the Sinister Six in one night. Because not only does Spider-Man have one of the most durable bodies, but he has an unbreakable spirit. If you can't tell, I f***ing love Spider-Man. So maybe I'm a bit biased, but I'm giving him top of B as the strongest of the characters who are basically just a stronger human. Spider-Man 2 wasn't the only game Spider-Man was in this year. He's also in contention for Best Ongoing Game, Fortnite Battle Royale. This game has a lot of characters, but we're only looking at its main character. I'm of course talking about the one and only Satoru Gojo. In Fortnite he's shown to be fairly athletic, vaulting over walls and sprinting short distances. But oddly enough, most of his abilities are only shown in the spin-off series Jujutsu Kaisen. In it, he and other sorcerers wield a power called Cursed Energy, manifested by controlling their negative emotions in order to enhance their physical strengths to superhuman levels. And if you're born with a cursed technique, you can also use Cursed Energy to do stuff like manipulate blood or control shadows. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo is the strongest person in the world, mostly because he won the genetic lottery, being born with the technique Limitless, which allows him to control infinity. It constantly works to make any attack thrown at him move infinitely slow, so it never hits him. On top of that, he has a technique called Domain Expansion that overloads an opponent's brain with infinite knowledge, and if your average human is exposed to this for more than 0.2 seconds, they will suffer permanent brain damage. And by combining positive and negative infinity, he can create the Hollowed Purple, a ball of imaginary mass that can destroy almost anything. This would put him at the top of the rankings, but he still gets shot in Fortnite, so for whatever reason he's not using Limitless. So I don't really think it's fair to use it in these rankings. With that in mind, where did he go? Oh. Even in Fortnite, he still showed a mastery in basically every weapon. Using guns, bombs, swords, lightsaber, the Captain America shield, all of them in tech, the Infinity Gauntlet, Attack on Titan, the ODM gear, Spider-Man's web stickers, whatever the hell a Ripshot launcher is, and more. He's also able to use some serious strongest attacks, like Deku Smash showing he can use One For All from My Hero Academia, the Kamehameha showing he can use Ki from Dragon Ball. He still has the Hollow Purple, which means he can still access some of Limitless, and he can ride the Flying Nimbus, which can only be done by people with a pure heart. Even with Fortnite characters only being able to carry 5 items in a pick at a time, given the Gold Skull for range, Lightsaber for melee, ODM for maneuverability, Kamehameha for a finisher, Chug Jug for a full heal, and the Marshmallow pick for more support, and I still think he runs the gauntlet and beats everyone else. From Gojo, we can pretty much only go down, with winner of Best Mobile Game of the Year, Honkai Star Rail, and their main character, who gives a shit. Whoever they are, they're not even gonna be the strongest character in their own game, because they're free. And Honkai Star Rail is a gacha game, meaning you can only get the stronger, and let's be honest, most fun characters to play as in random pulls. And of course, the best way to get more pulls and get the character you want is through spending real money. And I respect that so little, I'm not even putting Honkai in D tier. It's going so far below D tier that it goes off my monitor, under my desk, onto the floor. Real gambling though, that's going on the ceiling. Because unlike that character bullshit, this is where the money's at! Next we have the winner of both Best Racing Game and Innovation in Accessibility, the Forza car. Now I can respect what it does for accessibility, but in terms of feats, it's still just a car. Spider-Man can stop cars, Link can control objects, and Mario has a complete immunity to car crashes. At the very least, last time I checked, color still beats watermelon. Huh. You know who else has a complete immunity to car crashes? Contender for Best Fighting Game of the Year, SpongeBob from Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. SpongeBob is actually a popular character in power scaling discussions because he has access to one of the most broken abilities possible, Toon Force. Toon Force is the name given to when cartoon characters are able to use the fact they're a cartoon to warp reality around them. We can see SpongeBob doing this with him being able to ride the transition bubble to teleport or turn the entire world by tightening a bolt. But I've noticed something about Toon Force though, that I've never seen anyone else talk about. Maybe it's the ceiling pain in my liver, but I think I could turn the whole system on its head. People always assume the character with Toon Force is the one in control of it, but that's not true. The person in control is the writers. Now this may seem obvious, of course the writer controls the story, but really think about it. Toon Force is always used in service to creating the funniest joke possible. For characters like Bugs Bunny, it may seem like he can control it, but that's only because the joke is that it uses Toon Force to come out on top. But for characters like SpongeBob, it seems more like he's at the whim of Toon Force and in control of it. Sure, if the joke needs it, he can unravel the entire universe from a thread, but the joke can just as easily be that he slipped on an ice cube and almost died, and he can't control which. If I'm correct, this place is somewhere in the middle of infinitely strong and infinitely weak, and in the middle of our list. But this is still all hinges on what's just a theory. Blame Leary. Cranks for clocking. Next up we have Iron Mouse. For some reason I can't find what game she's from, but she did win an award, so congratulations. Now from what I could find, she's a demon with the ability to control people's minds and feed on their energy. Unfortunately for her though, demons are powerless in the light of our Lord and Savior, Sonic and the Black Knight for the Nintendo Wii. Bottom of the list. Moving on to winner of Best Sim/Strategy Game, we have the Cosmonaut from Pikmin 4. Now, none of the Pikmin characters' strengths is much to write home about, but their main power comes from the Pikmin, with them being able to command up to 100 of them at once. Now, 100's a lot when going against a 1, but just how strong are the Pikmin? Well, the strongest enemy in Pikmin is widely considered to be the final boss of Pikmin 1, Emperor Bullblax, with it being able to wipe all 100 Pikmin on its own if you're not careful. We can see that one Pikmin reaches roughly up to this knee bulge thing. If taking things into Photoshop and scaling appropriately, we can see that Bullblax is about 12.5 Pikmin tall. From the game's instruction manual, we know that each Pikmin is 1 inch tall, meaning Emperor Bullblax is a whopping 12.5 inches tall, or about the size of your average house cat. Moving on from that, we have winner of Best Audio Design, Chai from Hi-Fi Rush. He has self-described musical robot powers, with the MP3 embedded in his robot arm, causing the world to appear to be moving to the beat of whatever song it plays. And if he attacks on this beat, it powers up his attack, allowing him to hit some insane combos. He's going bottom of B though, mostly because he gets the matchup. The combos on anything the Spider-Mans can't do but stronger, and while he maybe could beat Link in pure strength, he loses the prosthetic arm competition. Because like I said, Link can control objects, nothing stopping him from attaching a bomb to Chai's arm, or just kinda. Now we have the character I thought I'd be fighting in a fighting game tournament. We have the winner of Best Fighting Game and the flagship character of Street Fighter 6, Ryo. He is a master of the Shokotan style of karate and a fighting genius. On top of that, he can control ki to do stuff like the Hadouken, shooting a ball of energy at opponents. His biggest feat of strength though is in the Street Fighter Alpha 3 M Bison ending, where the main villain M Bison uses Ryu's power to destroy all of Bangkok. But is this really Ryu though, or is the big female Buddha robot helping him? Because I find it unlikely for him to be able to do this when we also see him struggling to lift this boulder. Now I'm not trying to downplay this accomplishment, most people couldn't do it. I could, but that's besides the point. But still, it's not a 100,000 pound crane, it's not winning any award. So best I can do is high B. Alright guys, I've been stalling for long enough. I bet you all want to know, where does winner of Game of the Year Baldur's Gate 3 land at here? And I don't know, I haven't played it. I talk about games, I don't play them. My pal Stan had though, so I asked him where to put it, and he said it goes in its own special tier below D. So I'm putting it in A, because f*** you, Stan! Never tell me how to make my list again! With that out the way, it's time for our winner! The number 1 strongest game of 2023! That's weird, I don't remember adding a second honorary mention. I wonder who it is. Goku has been in a ton of games before, but none releasing this year. At the Game Awards they did reveal Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero, a Dragon Ball fighting game, and its trailer was one of the best ones shown at the Game Awards. Mostly because it was one of the only ones to show gameplay at the Game Awards. Goku's mainly just here because he's a staple of any power scaling discussion. Anytime there's a strong character in fiction, it has to be asked, but can they beat Goku? And the answer? No, no one here beats Goku. That shouldn't really come as a surprise to anyone. Goku is a master of Ki, and I mean Dragon Ball Ki, which is way stronger than Street Fighter Ki. Because while Ryu can shoot this tiny little Hadouken, Goku can do a full Kamehameha. A technique so strong I even gave it to Gojo for his strongest layout. He also has multiple ridiculous transformations, like Ultra Instinct that allows him to perfectly react to any attack without thinking. Just going on pure instinct, there's also a Super Saiyan God transformation that when fighting in, he almost accidentally destroyed the universe. So he could probably destroy like half a universe on purpose. Even if we give Gojo Limitless, Dragon Ball characters have been shown to use attacks that ignore the laws of physics. So nothing's stopping Goku from just punching through infinity or some ridiculous shit like that. And with Ultra Instinct, even if Gojo makes him brain dead, he can still keep fighting. Goku's so strong, I can't even put him in S tier. I had to create a new S plus tier, and then create a Goku tier above that to put him in. And then I put Luffy in there too. I just kinda like him. But do you guys really want that? It feels kinda anticlimactic to go through all this, and then end things with, and then Goku comes in and beats all the actual competitors. So I'm making the decision to just kinda ignore him and pretend he's not here. So with that in mind, the real winner for Best Music and the actual strongest game of 2023. None other than Clive Rosenfeld of Final Fantasy XVI. While most of the characters this year went for physical stats, Clive went the magic powers route, and it turned out that fire beats punch a lot of the time. In Final Fantasy XVI, there were 8 people in the world called Dominants, who host a magical beast called Icons. These give them strong magic powers, and the ability to turn into them to have kaiju battles. Clive was born as the dominant of Ifrit, the icon of fire. But he was also the only person ever to have the ability to absorb the powers of other dominants. With this, he gained the powers of ice, thunder, wind, earth, light, darkness, and fire times 2. People like Mario may have fire powers, but Clive takes it to a whole nother level, with him using them to defeat a little guy called God. Well, obviously not the real God. The main villain of Final Fantasy XVI Ultima might as well be. Being the creator of humanity and magic, And not only does Clive beat the living shit out of this guy, but in the fight, Ultima decides to challenge him to a series of fights where they only use one of the Dominant's powers at a time, which does not help his case, only serving to show that in every way, this so-called god isn't shit compared to Clive. And while I know people will disagree with me, I'm a simple guy. I see someone embarrass a god this badly, I'm calling him the strongest. And in a year solely lacking in god killers, that's none other than Clive. And just for fun, let's say Gojo does get access to Limitless. Wasn't really get into extreme JJK manga spoilers for the rest of the section, but in Final Fantasy 16, we see Clive fight a boss named Odin, who has the ability to cut anything. Now what does this sound like? Well, the abilities from Jujutsu Kaisen, Dismantle and Cleave. And who had these abilities? Ryomen Sukuna. And who does Sukuna kill using Dismantle and Cleave? None other than Satoru Gojo. So through the transitive property, Clive can kill Gojo. I miss him. So there we go. A definitive, unarguable list of the strongest games of the year. But what I'm sure we all want to know is, where do I fit in on this? Well, Clive's the strongest, so I should probably avoid him to be safe. Maybe only Spider-Man? But nah, that was just a bad matchup. So I'm thinking about here. Oh, that means it's time for my next match! Welcome back for another exciting match, everybody. In the blue corner, back at it again, looking to get ahead, Commander Frog! And in the red corner, the Suika Game Melon! Begin!